Quincy Gets Results, weekdays at 4 on Channel 13.
This is CNN Headline News. You're in tune with the world.
Mexico buries her dead. Hello, I'm David Goodnow. Mexico is a country in mourning. Rescue workers slowly lowering coffins into mass graves. So far, 298 charred remains have been buried. There are more than 200 others that still must be entombed in the earth. On Monday morning, a series of natural gas explosions brought flames and death. 20 square blocks were leveled in the Mexico City suburb. The reality of the aftermath now from CNN's Mark Dolmage.
It is a time for counting in Mexico City, counting the dead, counting the injured, and counting the homeless. Officials say more than 100,000 people have been evacuated from the 20-block area crumbled by Monday's liquefied gas explosion. They are living in makeshift shelters, sleeping on floors, and relying on donations of food and clothing. Relief officials say needed items are coming in, but they say they still need more. Food for babies is in particularly short supply. There are about 1,000 infants in shelters. Disinfectant is also needed. One woman said she was told the area is, as she put it, contaminated because of rotting bodies, both human and animal. Many of those who survived the Monday morning explosions and fires still don't know what happened to their families and friends. They flock to a computer reference list set up at a nearby college to find out if their loved ones have checked in yet. Hundreds still haven't been heard from. Searchers are using jackhammers and bulldozers to dig through the remains of broken homes. They hoped to find survivors, but as night fell, it became more likely they would find corpses. Soldiers and police are patrolling the Mexico City neighborhood, arresting looters and keeping out the curious. One man who was waiting at a store when the first explosion shook the area called the disaster the most horrible thing he's ever seen. He said, "I read about how God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That must have been something like this." Mark Dolmage, CNN.
United Nations Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick is stepping down. She hasn't formally handed in her resignation to the White House, but says she will talk soon with the president, in her words, to work something out. Kirkpatrick says she wants to return to teaching. There will be no change of command at the Defense Department when the second Reagan term commences. The Pentagon said the president has asked Caspar Weinberger to stay on the job, and he's agreed to do that. American diplomats say they're angry with the Salvadoran Supreme Court decision. As CNN's Rob Begleiter tells us, the ruling, in effect, lets a key suspect in the murder of 2 U.S. labor workers off the hook.
The case involves the murder of 2 AFL-CIO agricultural advisors who were killed in the San Salvador Sheraton Hotel almost 4 years ago. 2 Salvadoran National Guardsmen confessed, and they charged that Lieutenant Lopez Cibrian provided instructions and guns for the murders. Salvadoran President Duarte has refused to promote the Army officer because of the charges against him. But El Salvador's Supreme Court has now set Cibrian free, saying he may not be tried. Salvadoran law does not allow confessions to be used against Cibrian. The State Department called the Salvadoran court decision distressing because a jury will never hear what U.S. officials consider to be substantial evidence against him. Secretary of State Schultz has cited the case of the murdered labor workers as an example of El Salvador's need to improve its human rights record.
Are you, as in Senator Inouye's words, prepared to terminate our military assistance program to El Salvador if the leaders of that country do not curb corruption and dismantle death squad structures?
Yes.
A congressional source says the decision to clear Lopez Cibrian pulls the rug from under the case and means Salvadoran military higher-ups who may be implicated will never be found out. The House of Representatives made $5 million worth of military aid to El Salvador contingent on a verdict in the labor advisor's case. And the congressional source now says this week's Salvadoran High Court decision probably means that U.S. money won't be released. El Salvador is expecting $127 million in U.S. military aid this year, and congressional observers expect the Reagan administration to ask for more in the next few months, no matter what happens in cases like the murders of the American labor advisors. Ralph Begleiter, CNN at the State Department.
CNN has learned that Australia will host high-level Soviet and American negotiators early next year. There are no plans for the bargainers, though, to talk with each other. They're going to discuss the new arms control plan with the people who proposed it, the Australians. And sources say Washington and Moscow are talking about a meeting between Secretary of State Schultz and Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko in Moscow. This is CNN Headline News. Is another recession coming, or is the nation's slowing economy just taking a nap? That's the question analysts are asking as they ponder figures showing the gross national product growing at only 1.9% in the third quarter. The rate was more than 10% in the first quarter, 7% in the second. The Reagan administration calls the slowdown temporary. Also, new housing starts dropped by nearly 10% last month for an annual rate of 1.5 million units.